What is going on, everybody? We did a lot of work to the Beamer, trying to get it running and driving pretty much, because that thing was kind of a pile when we picked it up. Didn't run very well, so I made it drive and run good. So now we're jumping into actually modifying the thing, and we're putting a whole new chassis harness. So let me show you guys what I've done so far, because I've already tore into it and got pretty deep, and we'll go from there. So let me show you guys what's going on right now. First things first, you can see our relay box is completely empty. We only kept the stock 3 main relays, and everything else, fuses, relays, and all stuff that was in this box is now gone. As well as everything on the inside. We got the rest of the interior that was still in here pulled out. That way we can get every single bit of wiring in here. As you can see, this is all loose stuff. But we have a bit of it wired up. I'll go into that later, but every wire is out. Everything is simplified. We got our doors simplified to just the windows as well as the other side. And going to the back, we got all the wires that we pulled out. Look at this. It's a whole spare tire full of wires, and there was more that I already threw out. But we got the rear lights all slimmed down to this one single harness. Kind of a mess in here, but this is pretty much our whole rear harness that's going to go up. This is taillights, running lights, reverse lights, and turn signals and brake lights. Everything that you need in the back. We are going to go ahead and tap the reverse lights or the plate lights into the running lights. But other than that, this thing's going to have a very simple chassis harness. That way, if anything goes wrong, I'll know exactly how to find it or what it is, and I'll have to dig through the jumble of wires that is BMW. So first things first, we got our switch panel here. This houses all of our switches, and we got everything put up to it. So first things first, we got our switch panel. This is actually what's holding the switches, and if you look down here, it's all wired up and pinned up. These are ground triggered with the painless kit. So all it is you match the pins to the harness that they give you, and you ground trigger it. There's a ground, and there's also a power in here for the lights on the gauges. If you don't have lights, you don't need to pin that wire in, but my gauges have LEDs, so we went ahead and did this whole twisty loom. And obviously we only have 6 switches here, 1 2 3 4 5 6, but the painless kit has 8 relays that I can trigger. So that being said, we have 2 extra triggers that we're not using, so I just have it tied up to the side. I didn't think about it till later. I should have just left the pins out and pinned it in when I was ready, but not a big deal. That's just going to be on the side, ready to go whenever we need more switches. But right now, I only have 5 being used, but since I have a 6th switch, I went ahead and wired it in. So that's going to be our switch panel. So the switch panel plugs directly into this, and it's all color coordinated. So pretty much wire number 1 will trigger wire number 1. It just sends power to whatever it is. So I'm going to have switch 1 to ignition, which is going to give my ignition power right over here into the key tumbler. Then when I turn the key to start it, it's going to send power to the ECU, and then when I turn the key all the way to the starter, it's going to start the starter. And then this is just alternator power, because you need your car to charge while it's on, obviously. And then number 2 will be for my gauges and everything. That gauges, brake lights, turn signals. It's going to send power to everything that I'm going to be using while the car is driving to monitor it. Number 3 is going to be fans. Number 4 is going to be headlights. And number 5 is going to be wipers. So, like I said, there were a few others. This is number 6, so we're going to figure out what we want that for. 7 and 8 are not going to be used at the moment. So instead of cutting them out, we are going to use them eventually. So we're just going to twist this off and put it to the side. But for now, let's just go ahead and figure out where we want what, get the lengths. That way we can trim them, twist them up, and we should be all good to go. Alright, so we got the track rocker box mounted where we want it, right over here by the battery terminal. We can see we made a little bracket that hugs the power post and bolt on to the same bolt. That way, nice and simple, no new holes drilled into the car. So we have the harness coming out starting here, and then the parts of the harness that's going to go to the back starts running there. The front part, so headlight and fans, split off and they go forward, and they're going to go into a plug so the whole front harness can be separate. So that being said, all the wires come out through here. You can kind of see it right there. Then they make their way up along the dashboard firewall, and then they start teeing off to where they need to tee off. So right here is our head unit power for the radio, and this is going to be for our windows. So they tee off in the middle because all that power stuff is right there. Then over on the side here, on the driver's side, there's more wires, and then there's a power wire that splits off to power the wipers, and it continues going through the dash. You have the power here for the gauges, and it continues to go through. We have the ignition power to the key tumbler, and then also the power to the brake light switch, and then the signal out with the rear tail lights for the running lights. And those two run all the way back, and they're going to meet to the back harness. There's going to be another plug right here or somewhere, and the rear harness is going to be all separate with the OEM wires, just to keep it nice and simple. So we're just figuring out where things are going. That way we can pull it all back out. Then once we pull out, we can lumen it up, make it look all nice and pretty, send it in, and we should be officially done. But all this stuff is really tedious work, kind of annoying, but you got to do what you got to do to make your wiring look good, because it's what you can't see that looks good. Then it, how do you say that? If what you can't see looks good, that's even better than if what you can see looks good. So all this stuff, you're probably not going to see like 9/10 out of it, but the fact that I know it looks good and you guys know it looks good makes all the difference. So let's get back to the tedious wiring stuff, and we'll catch you guys when we're closer to finished. All right, so that was a lot of work, but we got most of it done. So we got the whole thing off right here. Let me show you guys real quick. You guys know the harness tees off and then comes out through here. So this harness here is all for the rear end stuff. So how that's going to work is it's going to follow the body here. It's somewhere in this area. I'm going to cut off the leads and put it to a plug. That way the whole rear of the car is separate from the chassis harness, so I can unplug it from there and leave the back alone if I need to do something with the switch panel or whatnot. Then we have it over here where it's going to meet some stuff, but we have the relay box like we showed you guys earlier. Comes out, splits to the front. This goes into the cab. This black loomed wire goes to the switches, so that's going to trigger the relays. But we got the power wires going through, some for the radio, the gauges or whatnot. You can see it tees off where it needs to go. So now that we have the lengths for everything that we have here, we can go ahead and twist it up, shrink wrap it, and make it all pretty, and then throw it back into the car. So let's go ahead and do that. Boom! Look at that. Everything's all nice and twisted up. Get our nice little twisty loom thingy going on here. This is the extra wires that we're just gonna twirl up and keep to the side just in case I do find a use for that 7th and 8th switch or relay. But as you can see, it goes to here. This is the center console, so this is where the switches are gonna end up being. I still have to twist this up. I'm just not 100% sure on the length just yet. But it comes off here. The brake light switch, that's gonna be for the turn signal power. That is the ignition, and we got it goes all the way down here to the back where it's gonna meet the rest of the chassis. But that being said, that's it. We just have to shrink wrap it and throw it back in the car, and hopefully next clip we can be putting it back together. All right, so we got the painless kit back in the car. It's all shrink wrapped and have our plug here to wire the rest of the front. But we got it in here. Don't mind this stuff. This is just extra stuff that we're not dealing with yet. But we got the painless track rocker here all mounted. We got it hardwired to the batteries for now. And on the inside, it comes out of the firewall and comes up all nice and pretty. And it comes up over here. As you can see, the loomed part is for the switches, as you can see right here. And then it just tees off to where it needs to go for the radio, the gauges, and then don't mind some of this stuff. It's not 100% done yet. It's kind of just in here to see if everything works. Obviously, the whole back section still has to be cleaned up and loomed up, but it's there. So if you take a look here, flip the switches, and it's only technically the first switch to start the car. This just gives the chassis like power, like brake light and stuff like that. So we'll go ahead and hit that while we're here, and then we just turn the key. Boom, it starts right up, and then we have, this is going to be our headlights. Obviously I said the front side isn't wired up yet, but in the back you can see the taillights come on, and then we have our signal stock here, left and right, and you can see if you look back there, there's left, oh no, sorry, yeah, left and right. So that being said, that all works. The brake lights work too. Everything works. So we just have to finish up wiring, and then we can clean it all up, loom it up or whatnot, and then throw everything back in here. So before that, let's go ahead and make the front harness for the headlights and the fans, and then technically we should be done other than our windows, but I still have to buy the OEM switches for that. So we'll do that another time, or maybe later in this video, I'm not too sure, but we're almost done.